Is that what this show's gonna be about? How I talk funny? How I make funny sound?
No, not necessarily.
Do the Marge. No, we gotta warm up doing it. So it's like back of the throat, back bottom of the throat. Yeah, you do it. You do it like deeper in your throat than I do.
Yeah, doesn't feel good though. It's O&A Detox time once again. I'm Muse, here with Neb. And boy oh boy, this episode sucks! We're still in June of 2008. We got sexual abuse, we got police brutality, we got just emotional abuse. Just about everything deals with abuse in some way, shape, or form.
So how are we gonna make this funny? Because, that's our show. It's funny. We have to be funny. That's all we do is be funny.
Oh, yes.
So, how are we gonna make it funny?
We have to make up for it, yeah. I don't know, it's gonna be an interesting task. We're gonna have to see. It might just be a bunch of rage fits. We'll see.
Us?
Maybe.
We're gonna rage fit? We're gonna
rage quit.
We're gonna rage quit. I kick the microphone over.
Episode 14, that's it. Show's over.
14?
Yeah.
14 teen. Can't wait till we get to 27.5.
So we start this episode on the morning of June 17th, 2008. The show starts with The Great American Nightmare, a song by Rob Zombie that Howard Stern has been using for his theme song since around the time his movie's release, before fading into their usual street fighting man. A caller asks what that was about, but they feign ignorance and move on without ever explaining it. If I had to guess, this was probably in reference to the ongoing merger negotiations between XM and Sirius, and was probably an Opie idea since he loves petty shit and not letting people in on the joke. The big story this week is that California is hosting the country's first same-sex marriages. George Takei is all over the news for being one of the first people in line to be married. The Catholic Church has been an outspoken critic of the progress in LGBTQ rights, which prompts Jim Norton to give this random mini-rant.
Right. California, they should let them get married. Leave them alone. Who cares?
That's basically what they're doing, Jimmy.
No, I'm saying that the country.
We finally got to that point. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's recognized, though, right? They don't recognize it in every state. And...
Listen to an organization that's been hiding pedophiles for 5 centuries. It just irritates me.
Ooh.
Irritates me.
What do you mean by that, Jimmy?
Exactly what I mean. The church has been sheltering these savages, sticking them from parish to parish to parish, and they're not accountable, and they're finally paying billions of dollars, and people are still listening to them. Well, they're right. I guess they're right. They shouldn't get married.
Bashing Catholics isn't anything new for Jim. The Catholic League led the charge for O&A to be fired following 2002's Sex for Sam debacle, and the boys still carry a grudge all these years later. I wouldn't have included this otherwise unremarkable section if they didn't go down this rabbit hole 2 hours later.
No, that's not the hot story. This is the hot story. Oh, is this a hot story?
A shocking sleepover scandal. 2 mothers are arrested, accused of hosting a sleepover for teenage boys that investigators say turned into a sex show.
Oh, yeah.
Is this where they're like, if it had been me, I would have been lucky. Those boys are lucky, they should have been thankful.
You act like you've heard this.
Yeah, it's like the same fucking narrative that all toxic men always fucking spout, where it's like, oh, you should be grateful if an older woman sexually assaults you when you're underage.
I mean, that does make up a good bit of this. They go a little bit further, though, unfortunately, to make it probably worse than you've ever heard before.
Oh, shit.
According to court documents, 38-year-old Angela Honeycutt was dancing provocatively in front of the teenagers, and that in referring to one juvenile specifically, Honeycutt exposed her breasts to him and asked him to touch her breasts.
This rocks.
Well,
Who should be shot for ratting them out?
We talk about this because
who's the rat?
it is so a double standard. Like, guys, when we're growing up, we dream about this stuff, right? Right, guys?
Of course.
And then there's one guy that ruins it. Goes home
Killjoy.
and tells mommy because you're still playing with, like, Hot Wheels and baseball cards and riding your 10-speed. Don't ruin it for everybody else.
Yeah.
This is hot stuff, and no one's life is gonna be ruined.
Keep your yap shut.
As far as this stuff goes.
It's fine. You could end up like Anthony. This happened to me, and look, I'm fine.
I'm the personification of the American dream, as I sit before you.
Obviously, it's not as if, sexual assault to a minor makes someone make shitty choices, but trauma colors how people make choices as they grow up.
I've heard episodes them do where they don't talk about news stories, they talk about shit going on in their own lives and stuff like that, and they carry a fucking show. You don't need to cover these stories.
You're not like an expert in the field of like news.
Yeah, and I say that specifically because y'all then just don't add anything to this. Like, even your attempts at humor usually fall pretty flat. And the calls you get are just a bunch of guys either bragging about having been assaulted or calling up wishing they had been assaulted. It makes for a really weird break.
It is such a complex fucking thing.
Yeah.
Like, it just bolsters toxic masculinity, and it, perpetuates the concept that women can't assault people because they're the fairer sex, whatever. When a male is sexually assaulted as a minor, it feels like, from my perspective, that the loud people are the ones that were down with it. So, like, in their own mind. Their narrative to them is that they were willing.
Right.
But I argue that they couldn't consent to it.
Yeah.
Because they're minors. And that's the loud narrative you hear, like, oh, you should be so lucky, I wish it was me. But the people who aren't talking about it are the ones who were negatively affected by it in a more profound way. I argue that all of them are negatively affected by it, but the ones who are, I guess, maybe more viscerally affected aren't going to be talking about it. Because of that, the same narrative is pushing them not to say anything.
I just think it's very funny how they open the show talking about priests assaulting children.
Yeah.
And 2 hours later, we're talking about children being assaulted, and now you're making jokes about it.
And that's the thing, because it was women doing it.
What's the problem? I mean, how old were the kids? I mean, if this Miss Honeycutt lady is showing her breasts, how old were they?
I'm gonna guess. When does it get creepy for guys? 8, 9?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
1.
I'm not.
That's a little creepy.
I'm not even kidding. Like, you're 12 and this is going on. This is what you dream about.
A thing I've heard Opie say numerous times, and this is going to come up and be important for this whole episode, honestly, that he said, quote, I get off on people listening to the show in their cars and thinking, oh my god, I can't believe they said that. So he loves the shock factor. But I can't take that at face value when you say specific things like, I'm not kidding, I'm not joking. Then it's like, This isn't a bit anymore then. You're just giving your personal opinions. So it's like, you can't just apply to everything, unfortunately, there.
The narrative in society, in Western society, being that males at any age have the ability to have sexual prowess, and they're allowed to do that.
Right,
whether or not they're of age or not. Mm-hmm. Women, they're so fair that they can't possibly overpower a male in any way.
Yeah.
If you were to have this same story and they were all young teenage girls, it would be an uproar.
Yeah.
It would be like, whoa, because there's that even playing field of they're both women, they're both female, but they're younger, so therefore it's bad. It's like this weird like equation that like, oh, men are, no matter what age men are, they're automatically more powerful and stronger and like capable than any woman.
Right.
So, like, you know, 2-year-old boy and 40-year-old woman, oh, you know, you should be great. Like, even if it's just a joke.
Yeah.
Like, the joke still, like, supports that implication.
Two mature, supposedly mature women taking advantage of immature, minor boys.
They just said supposedly mature women.
I think what they're trying, like, I guess they're saying, like, to do that is not mature.
But it's, yeah, still, though. I'm using it as fuel for my argument. 16, 17, 14.
Yeah, 16, 17? Leave everybody alone. 14? Okay, we'll just push that goalpost back as far as we need to. This isn't comedy. Just saying, I have no problem with this. This is great. This is a comedy show?
It would be one thing if they were doing something with a punchline. Something with, like, build-up and a punchline and a payoff. But no, literally all they're saying is, I'm fine with this.
That's when police allege Honeycutt had sex with a 14-year-old boy.
When she was finished, she then takes another male into a shower and indecently assaults that male.
And
not assault.
Indecently assault?
Exactly. The courts say it's assault. I understand, but it's not assault.
She was just washing.
It's either that or the old pillow again.
Why are they... So...
Okay, here's a question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Opie's saying it's not assault. Either you're going to have sex with this 40-year-old in a shower or you're going to fuck your pillow. Why isn't people your own age an option? Opie is the person who said, oh, you know, I looked at Jeannie and stuff with, like, older women on TV. And had said himself that he wasn't, like, interested in sex until he, like, was about of age. Like, he said his parents were, like, worried about him and got him the Joy of Sex book or the Kama Sutra, I forget which, to, like, try to get him to be interested because they were worried either he just, like, wouldn't be or he was gay. I don't know. Opie doesn't specify.
Mm-hmm.
But he says things like they had to talk in school and his dad tried to talk to him about it and he ran up a tree and hid because he didn't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
And there was another thing I almost included, but it was whatever, that when he was caddying, he had found not even a used tampon, but just a tampon in its wrapper and was like, oh my gosh, and took it home and buried it.
How old was he? He must have been at least 16, 14, 15, 16?
He was probably in there.
Because I can't remember how old you have to be to, like, caddy. You don't actually...
You could be pretty young to caddy. I forget how long he said he'd been caddying. But, yeah, he probably was, like, 14, 16 around there. And they're just like, what the fuck were you
That's
doing?
so primal.
I know.
To bury it. To bury something that, like, I guess indicates sexuality to you?
I guess in some way that you're just confused about. Like, it's
also
weirdly innocent, but also creepy.
But also at that age, I imagine that a majority of people who don't have vaginas, I don't think they know how tampons are really used.
Yeah.
You know, like, they just know that it's used in some way.
That's enough.
Yeah. There's a huge difference between a minor ingesting porn that has adults in it,
right,
versus an actual adult.
Yeah.
Or fantasizing about an actual adult.
Right.
Because it all comes down to the power dynamic. And adults are more powerful than minors in nearly every way you can think of.
Yeah. One theory that they bring up on the show in relation to this topic is, and again, their attempt to try to make this funny, is they look at recent women who have been charged with different ranges of sexual assault on kids.
And they decide if they're hot or not.
Decide how hot they are, and look at, and their theory here is that the hotter the woman is, the less time she gets. And that is the correlation with the ones they look at.
Yeah, I mean,
the women that are not as typically attractive end up getting, like, years sentences.
Yeah, and it's that societal thing where the jury is looking at these people and they're deciding how to charge them, and they're like, even the women there are gonna have this, like, this toxic concept of, like, it was worse for them because you're ugly.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay,
Yeah, I mean, Honeycutt here is only sentenced to a year in prison, and I don't even know how much time she actually serves. It was like up to a year.
And then if you were to sort of flip it, if it was an older man and the same age young girl, how much time would they be getting?
Oh, God. Yeah.
You know, like... And it's...
And O&A would be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's certainly a double standard. I argue that the women should be getting as much time as, like, the men would be getting. It sort of goes all the way back to when women were considered the husband's property. And when a woman would commit a crime, the man would have to answer for it.
Yeah.
And it's like the women are just so incapable in this archaic judicial system. Women are just incapable of actually breaking the law the same way that men are. It's like they just don't have it in them.
I think it's funny, too, that one topic that comes up a lot, specifically because of Anthony's experience with it and a lot of comedians that are connected to the show are dealing with around the same time, that when they talk about divorce, they always bitch and moan about women being awarded alimony, getting money from the guy, and it never seeming to go the other way. So you have a problem when women get more money in divorce settlements, and you bitch about this, and you say, well, that's not fair, and then you turn and you praise women who are criminals, sexual assaulting people, and saying, oh no, that's okay, they shouldn't get jail time, but we think it's weird.
Yeah, it's like a privilege for women that's rooted in their lack of privilege.
And during the incident, investigators allege Lynn was listening through the door and urged at least one boy not to tell anyone. Neighbors of Honeycutt.
Wow, these two rock.
Yeah.
And let's not be confused here. The news is doing this story because they know it's a sexy story.
It's sexy.
There's no reason to report this on the news for the most part.
It's hard to argue with that in a
How
way.
often do you see the same thing happen to men who assault young girls?
Yeah.
Because you sort of expect that to happen these days.
Yeah.
But, like, with this, it's very, man bites dog.
Yeah.
Where it's like, but it like, statistically, it is, but it happens more often than you would think.
Mm-hmm.
And, plenty of people just don't come forward.
Yeah.
Because they think I should be, one, they think they should be grateful, or two, nobody's going to believe them.
It is weird because on one hand they're saying it's a sexy story. It's not a sexy story. It is a sensational story though that they're capitalizing on. But to then also say that it's not news, I don't know about that. I mean, if you're a newscast and you report on crimes, I mean, naturally you should give equal time to similar crimes.
Yeah.
If you don't, then that's the problem. And you probably don't.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I still think it's worth reporting.
Yeah, it's not even a teacher. Like, it's not even, like, sort of a public figure. It's just people.
Now, here's where it gets weird for Anthony specifically. We're going to hear about a little bit about his thing, and then he's just going to get creepy again.
Oh, God.
Because it's been a minute, and he's been actually kind of quiet throughout all this. Wonder why. So we'll hear about his take.
Good point.
Even before I was, sexually assaulted when I was, 13 by that 19-year-old girl. It's the best sexual assault I ever had in my life.
Was what?
When I was sexually assaulted.
Oh, yeah.
By the 19-year-old girl when I was 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is Opie doing? He's just over there like half asleep stretching and being like, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah, that's right, I remember.
This is like something you'd walk by hearing in VR chat. Where you're just like, what the and there would definitely be that phrase of, it was the best sexual assault that I've ever experienced.
It's weird that only a few episodes, well, I say a few, it's been probably more than that by now, when we heard Anthony telling this story for the first time and Opie's reaction to it, that was in 99. That was a decade ago almost.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's either Opie has kind of forgot about it. Oh, yeah, that's right. That horrible traumatic thing did happen to you. I completely forgot about that.
Buzz.
I know.
Yeah.
The dyke.
No, she wasn't a dyke.
She's now married to a woman.
She is not.
Her name's Buzz.
Buzz.
Exactly.
Buzz. Her name was Christine.
Ooh.
Called her Chris.
With 2 S's?
Whatever.
Very nice.
I don't care how many S's. But,
and I'm just jealous.
But it was before that. before that.
I just wanted to pause it. This is so fucking boring.
Yeah.
Like, their little exchange there, like, this ran out of steam so quick. But, I also wanted to point out here, we're still on FM radio. Dyke is okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to point that out. Fag and faggot are still kind of touch and go, honestly. Sometimes it seems like it's okay, sometimes it's not. Dyke is fine, though. You can just go ahead and say that on FM radio 2008 and not get in any trouble for it.
Because you would think something like that might get me to the point where it's like, well, you know, I like girls that are younger than me. But no.
It started out
I
that
was
way.
always like that, all through school. If I was in junior high, I liked the girls that were coming into the junior high.
What a
When I'm in high school, I liked the junior high school girls.
You like tweens?
No, when I wasn't talking about my, graduating high school, but when I was a senior, I was seeing a freshman in high school. So that's how that happens.
Yeah, I went out with a 10th grader when I was a senior, and I thought that was creepy.
You were right.
Yeah.
You think it's creepy?
A little bit. I was a freshman date. I mean, I was a senior dating a freshman now, so I was.
Well, freshman is 9th grade?
Yeah.
See, my high school was 10th through 12th, so.
When I was 22, my girlfriend was 14. Is that bad?
Holy shit.
This is something I never hear get brought up, and felt like I made the same face you did.
Is that bad?
Yeah, I want to replay that bit, the silence, and the reactions, because I don't know if he's joking or if he's being serious.
He sounds serious.
I'm leaning towards he's being serious, but you were just implying that graduating high school, dating someone entering high school would be weird. So why would you then say, I was 22 dating a 4? Like, are you referencing something that we just don't get? Because no one seems to be in on the joke. And the way Jimmy responds to it, especially here, leads me to believe, yeah, this is just a weird fucking thing you said and probably shouldn't have.
When I was 22, my girlfriend was 14. Is that bad?
No, it's not.
Was E-Rock laughing?
Not at all. It's perfectly healthy. It has nothing to do with needing control or needing to dominate or needing to be important to. That's completely normal.
He gets into all the things.
No,
Jimmy's a therapist now.
Nothing to do with needing those weird little advantages or scenarios.
Advantages.
How would you date someone your own age in high school? You know, go younger, of course. Even then, it's good.
And nothing wrong with that. I mean, you've been drinking, you're drinking in the bar, sitting there going, well, I just have to wait 7 years and she'll be able to join me here. No, that's normal. Dog Jersey, what's up?
So low energy. What happened to y'all? Like, Opie is phoning it in. He's yawning. He's stretching. Jimmy's just kind of...
It's an exhausting topic, maybe.
Yeah, maybe it probably shouldn't have been brought up. Maybe if I was the program director, I'd be, hey, maybe steer away from those. Spoiler alert, this comes up a good bit over the next couple weeks, and they keep talking about it. They have this same fucking break, essentially. Not all of Anthony's things.
Yeah.
But the same, who snitched? Beat that snitch up. You should be happy. If this happened to me, I'd be so happy. This happens at least 2 more times. Over just the next couple weeks. I think it's very strange, like, we talk about how the way Anthony focuses trans issues, he thinks it's so barbaric for, quote, healthy young girls to have their breasts removed. He never talks about male to female. He only ever talks about what a tragedy it is.
Why is he so obsessed about young girls and supposedly young girls?
Yeah.
My mind goes to the intersectionality of the whole thing. Typically, you only hear about these stories when it's young white boys and older white women.
That is true. Every time they do it is.
If you were to see, if it were to be different in any way, like a older black woman, completely different story.
Yeah.
Young black boy, completely different story. But it would still it probably wouldn't even make news.
Probably not.
Because, even if somebody were to come forward, I feel that in that scenario, people would just, like, Emmett Till kind of situation, you wouldn't believe, a lot of people just wouldn't believe the young black boy.
Yeah.
And then you could flip it, older man, young girl, completely different story. Older black man, young white girl, whoa, completely different story. older white man, young black girl. Completely different story.
You know, Anthony would look at if the woman was 40 and black, he would definitely see that as abuse.
Yeah.
Because of how he views black women.
And that's why you were sort of pointing out, and we're both sort of pointing out how this mentality that they seem to uphold, it seems very rooted in white supremacy, white male supremacy, where if it's a young white boy, there's still this inherent power over everybody.
Yeah.
And no matter...
that their desires overpower the crime that the adult is committing.
Exactly.
It's more important.
Yeah, and even if somebody comes forward saying, I didn't want that, even a young white boy comes forward and says, I didn't want this to happen, they're still benefiting in a lot of people's eyes.
We're taking a detour to something else. Luckily, the topic's over. Danny, a producer on the show, and at this point a close personal friend of Anthony's outside of work, tells the boys about his recently deceased grandfather he admits he was not very fond of. Anthony says he can relate to how Danny feels, and I gotta say this, at least Anthony's consistent.
I separate myself from elderly relatives after a while.
Why?
I just start because I don't need the sorrow of when they drop dead. So what I do is they reach a certain point or maybe start having some health problems. I cut them right off. I don't see them. I don't write to them. I don't talk to them. I don't call them. So that way when they die, I just go, oh, that's a shame.
It's a nice way to be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
How old is he?
Anthony?
How old is he right now? 61?
61, 62, April.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be like 62, I guess.
The show will be fun until someone drops dead.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe of their own volition.
Yeah?
Because it sounds like he's projecting his own fear of old age onto all of his family members.
Yeah.
Like, it's... Like, do you really think that he would want to be old if he can't even stand other old people with their illnesses and age issues?
He complains about old people a lot.
Yeah.
So no, I would say no.
Yeah.
I hadn't even considered that possibility of it. What I was just sitting here wondering is, do you think... Because in the
Where's
last
the
episode...
sheriff? No, go ahead.
In the last episode we just talked about, he went over and he hung out with his mom, stepdad, aunt, and uncle. Do you think his mom is sitting there just knowing he's just gonna cut me out? Once I get sick, he's just gonna fucking cut me out entirely. She's gotta know, right?
I'm gonna say
how
this.
open he is about this?
He learned it from someone.
Oh, yeah.
So,
has to have.
His dad died in 90-something, 96 or something?
94, yeah.
How old was his dad?
That I don't know.
How sick was his dad?
I don't know. I don't even know what he died of. I think at that point he was still living out in California, and maybe Anthony, well, no, Anthony probably didn't even go visit or anything. I think it said like he just closed himself off. I doubt he went to a funeral.
Why did his parents separate?
Well, his dad was abusive.
So far away.
Yeah. Well, it sounded like his dad may have had a life out there initially, because it sounded like he knew what the fuck to do when he went out there, because he went there, raised horses, everything. Maybe that was an environment he was raised in the first place, and that was comforting to him. Maybe the New York life really wasn't for him.
Well, see, this is what doesn't add up to me. So, let's say that they all started out and met in California, had the family there, and the money was there.
Yeah.
Then used money, divorced, moved to New York, which is okay, money.
Right.
Depending on where you are. But it sounds like New York City. Maybe not.
It's like a smaller city. It's like a suburb.
Okay. So, still more money than most of California, in my opinion, when it comes to cost of living.
If you're living out in a fucking ranch, yeah.
But then you also have the story that he was stealing quarters from his dad, and his dad beat the shit out of him for it.
Yeah, and his dad didn't have enough money to really supply food for his own kids.
But then he also goes, we never wanted for.
Well, that was when they were all a happy family in New York. It was the 5 of them in New York. Then his mom and dad separated. His dad moved out to California. That's what I'm saying. I don't know if he came from California initially.
See, that's part of the mystery I'm trying to, put together.
Yeah, and unfortunately, these are the things Anthony doesn't really talk about too much. He only talks about it whether or not it's something traumatic he can try to make into comedy.
When did he say his mom started getting sick?
it was 2016 we were listening. It's probably around 2011, 2012.
Okay. I was going to say, was it like early onset situation or okay, so
yeah, he said she was deteriorating for about 5 years, he said. So by the time she passed away in 2016, he said she's been dead for 5 years.
Okay, because I was going to say, like, I'm trying to bring this back to, like, separating yourself, like, him separating himself from elderly family members. And I'm like, was there a chance that the two divorced because of some kind of health thing that they just couldn't handle? But
oh, yeah,
I don't
no.
know. Maybe it was, like, grandparents or aunts and uncles.
I mean, it definitely just seems like they were an extremely unhappy couple and his dad was abusive. So, I mean, that's probably enough of a reason to separate. But yeah, that's as far as I know.
Yeah.
If I hear anything else, though,
Yeah.
you'd be the first to
Follow
know.
the breadcrumbs.
Well, that episode was horrible. Luckily for us, the next episode is largely uneventful. This is until the end of the show. The FM portion had nothing to report, with Mike Birbiglia in studio trying to adjust his comedy to the shock jock environment. But when the boys make it over to XM, they introduce us to someone who's on the bleachers to watch the show. It's porn star Lisa Sparxxx and her husband. Lisa tells the boys she holds the current gangbang record with 919, which still stands to this day in 2023. And I know we've mentioned this in a riff break before, in case you're curious. Each man wears a condom and only has to last 30 seconds to count.
Yeah.
And people can rotate, so you can go again.
Oh, okay.
It's
So
really.
wait, does that one person count as two?
I think so. They count as many as they want. They just can't go back to back. You have to like rotate them out. I think. They said it took 7 hours, 7 and change.
So I'm trying to figure out how many people it could have actually been. How few of people it could have actually been.
Yeah, I don't know exactly. She was saying that they had to do it in Poland because it actually like is against U.S. laws.
What's against U.S. laws?
She said that she was saying that the person who held the record before her, it was like 523 or something like that, and that was the legal limit, and she exceeded it. So she, quote, ruined it for everyone. So anyone who tried to break the record would have to do it in a different country.
I think that this is just some lore that they made up, which I love. Or if it is a law, when did they think they had to make legislation about this?
It's a very
Who
good
thought that they
question.
had to make this a law?
Don't know.
It's becoming a problem. These orgies is becoming a problem.
So Jim, the resident porn connoisseur, leads the questioning, showing his own insecurities, asking how the husband deals with Lisa being in porn. Things are cordial for the most part, until Opie notices her nose is running and suspects she's on coke. This doesn't lead anywhere, but we do hear Opie starting to do his fake laugh, which is usually a sign he's tired of the guest. Thinking quickly, he brings in Jared, aka Cream Pie Jones, who is celebrating his birthday today.
So it's your birthday. How old
There you
again?
go.
21.
21 years old.
That's right.
Do you think you could come in my mouth? Because it's my favorite.
Isolate that.
All right.
Not right now, no.
Why?
What?
A little nervous.
He's a little nervous.
Oh, what?
Cream pie.
Cream pie. Cream pie.
Cream pie.
Like, hold on.
Cream
What's the
pie.
matter with you, cream pie?
If I get down here
Oh boy.
and I take your pants off, like,
Oh, that's not happening.
No?
No.
Why? How big's your penis right now?
I'm very nervous right
Cream pie.
Is it small?
hold on, I'll tell you.
How about if she doesn't suck it? How about if she just looks at it?
Wait, I got.
Pie.
Hold on, I got
pie,
the bit
you're a
that'll keep
homo.
us all safe.
What?
Lisa,
Safe.
make Cream Pie Jones make cumsies in his pants. He doesn't even have to have his
Can I
pants
make you
on.
cumsies?
Look,
I don't know if that's possible right now. Yeah, I'm really
I want
He's
really
really
nervous.
nervous.
I want him to make cumsies in his pants.
Why are you nervous? I don't bite.
They even go, dude, you wore a fucking duty hat, and now you're not gonna fucking do this? You're not gonna carry through? So we hear on the next episode that after the show, Jared ended up feeling very sick, and he ended up calling into work.
Wait, who's Jared again?
Cream Pie Jones.
Okay.
He explains that he felt incredibly anxious from his on-air appearance, feeling that he let down the show by not letting Lisa blow him. He also mentioned her gangbang record made him a little queasy. So just everything in general,
Okay.
the pressure from everybody in studio just made him very nervous.
Yeah.
And he just didn't want to have anything to do with the bit. So luckily, they don't force him to fucking do it.
Yeah.
Thankfully, some saving grace here. But instead, they bring in a replacement, a new hire, E-Rich, not to be confused with E-Rock. And, yeah, they try to see how much they can get away with here.
Hold on, let's get Steve in here.
Where is he? Why isn't he in here now?
Why would he be? I was going to say because there's a girl.
Probably not.
I was just going for the line.
What do you think?
As you showed up immediately and blew my line, and it looks like you want to kill me. Sorry.
You want above?
Are we allowed to do blowjobs?
Whoa!
Probably not.
Probably not.
Worry about it.
Here's the problem we're having. It's not that we don't want it. It's simply that we're currently having some legal stuff happening.
Okay.
It's not that we don't want to. But how about this? You keep his underwear on.
Simulated.
Yeah, there you go. Of course.
That's all. Don't worry about it. It's all simulated.
How about
simulated?
How about? Hold on. I think we could do cumsies in the pants.
I think they're talking about not wanting to jeopardize the merger with legal issues.
Right, yeah.
So they're talking about if we can get simulated sex, is that okay? And Steve, the producer, concedes like, yeah, that's probably fine. We can get away with that. So Sam of the Sam and Jim show and of current WWE fame, he brings us some info about young E-Rich.
E-Rich like showing us all porn videos that he's made on his cell phone.
You make porn videos on your cell phone?
Recent new thing I've been getting into.
His first day here, he just started showing all the interns and then me and I think Danny videos of him fucking chicks on his phone.
Holy shit.
I fucking like this kid.
First day there, E-Rich is going around showing all the producers videos of him having sex with women. We come to find out they don't know about this.
Oh, I'm so surprised.
So E-Rich is a giant piece of shit.
Yeah, even if they did know about it, let's guess, they didn't consent to him just showing everybody?
Yeah, no. And unfortunately, I was thinking, silly me, wow, this really sucks. That sounds like he just admitted to doing something illegal on the radio. Maybe they part ways with him because I don't remember E-Rich. But a month later, he's still there, so fuck me. Of course they don't do anything about it. So they get Lisa and E-Rich, because now E-Rich is being rewarded for what we just found out by taking Cream Pie Jones's place with Lisa in the studio, and he's going to have simulated sex acts as Jim, who has been, I guess, assigned the duty of being in the room with a microphone to do play-by-play action for the guys in the studio.
Yes, Lisa right now is simulating a good titty fuck on the young gentleman, and he's squeezing her breasts, and she's tugging.
By the way, we always have a tough time getting interns. Steve, take this audio and make the next intern commercial.
Oh, really?
For the opening
that
show.
worked.
I know.
So next day, Otto of Otto and George, a puppet act that have been making appearances on the show since the WNEW days, is in studio, having left George at home. Opie has a couple of news stories he wants to get to, and the boys pick a story of a trans sex worker who was brutally beat by police. I guess they thought that was a more fruitful story. They could go with more on that one.
I'm sure they can say so much about it.
You can clearly see the Memphis police officer walk over and hit her in the face several times.
Wow.
So why did it happen?
Actually, he was trying to get me to come over to where he was, and I responded by telling him that wasn't my name. My mother didn't name me a faggot or he, she. So he got upset and approached me, and that's when it started.
So before this, because Anthony's about to mention it here, the news reporter says that they give a little content warning for 2008, which is nice, that the story is disturbing and there's language in there. So it is very strange that the person is just being allowed to say fag in this news story in 2008 on just regular TV.
Was it the use of the word faggot that they had to warn the audience about? Is that what I'm being led to believe here?
Guessing.
That's the language that was...
Yeah. Maybe.
Holy Jesus, are we just a nation of boobs?
Yeah.
Do we stink?
Wow.
Doomed.
But cops are getting so stupid. It's like, everything is being videotaped.
Yeah.
This is Jim's problem with the whole thing.
The fact that he is stupid enough to have gotten caught?
Yeah.
Why do they think that the issue is that they said fag and not the issue that, like, oh, it's a disturbing story that this happened?
Well, I guess the person specifically said language, and that's the thing that Anthony is taking issue with is the language, not necessarily the story. He doesn't find anything about this disturbing. He thinks it's
disturbing
funny.
at all. This is America. What I'm sort of surprised about, like I was talking about earlier when it comes to, like, choosing stories that the media covers, why did the station decide to cover this story?
They actually asked the same question here
Sex
in a bit.
workers get brutalized by the police all the time. Trans sex workers get brutalized by police all the time.
It doesn't get covered all the time.
That's what I'm saying. Why this one?
I don't know.
That's
I'm guessing because it was particularly brutal of a beating.
I'm not talking about when it happens in the street where you're having a confrontation and you just beat down a guy who is you're chasing or whatever. But you're in the state. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know everything is videotaped.
Yeah.
So stupid.
I think it's just I don't think they're thinking at that point. That's just it. Especially
it's very
when,
hot in Memphis. They're very hot and overworked. Sure.
Especially after these chases.
Yeah.
You know what it must be like? Your adrenaline's pumping.
Sure.
You finally get this ass out of the car that's, jeopardized your life, other people's lives, and you run over and tackle them, and maybe they're resisting a little, getting the cuffs on.
Yeah.
You just want to drill your hand into their face.
Yeah, and you would hope your sergeant would back you up on that kind of excessive violence.
You hope the cameraman would put the camera down, maybe tape what's going on behind him.
Yeah.
So I love how Anthony is, friend of the police or whatever, and here he is straight up being like, hey, cops can fly off the handle and be like, he has no problem admitting how horribly violent they could be, but he's willing to make excuses for it.
And he just, supports the fact that, like, they're asking these questions, like, why would you do this? Why would you do this knowing you're getting filmed? Because you have so many fucking cop apologists out there who are gonna be like, yeah, fuck them up.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't happen in this case, luckily. I mean, the cops do actually face consequences we'll hear. And what Anthony is saying is, if you're in a high-speed car chase and this person is putting people's lives in danger and putting your lives in danger and your adrenaline's pumping, they can get the better of you. In this case, the cops were just yelling slurs at a trans sex worker, and when she didn't, acknowledge them, they just beat the shit out of her.
Yeah.
I didn't see nothing.
Yeah. Got more to the story.
Oh, there's more?
According to Duana, the officer was trying to get Duana, a transsexual, to get fingerprinted, but she says she didn't respond to the derogatory name he called her.
He said, I'm giving you one more chance to get up. So I'm looking at him, and he started putting his gloves on.
The officer...
oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Was it snowing out? If not, you better get up.
He's putting his gloves on.
A big sap, lead-filled glove like the old days.
It is weird to be reporting on it, and it's weird to feature it on the show, because they don't have anything funny to say about it. Listening to this break at work was probably the most angry I've been at the show.
Yeah.
I could not believe how incredibly, unnecessarily mean-spirited they were being.
Yeah.
It's just the lowest common denominator. Let's make fun of someone for getting beat up because they're different. That's literally it.
I was afraid. I mean, I had enough. Like I said, I thought the other officers that were witnessing this would at least try to stop him. I mean, he hit me so hard, the third time, it split my skull, and I had blood coming out. That's why I jumped up.
She sits back down, and the officer hits her in the face again. You can see other people in the room turning away and fanning because of the smell of the mace.
Wow, this guy's a bruiser.
Stomp the sodomite. That's great.
Be sexy.
Why is that news?
We ask that question all the time.
Stomping that freak.
And here's what the cop was. What the cop was saying.
Yeah.
You can act like a man. And a man in my position can't afford to be made to look ridiculous.
We got one more clip here.
Great.
One more clip.
And we know that this video has been reviewed by both the district attorney's office and the FBI. The DA's office dropped all charges against Duana Johnson. The feds are investigating whether a civil rights violation occurred. The police department confirms that the officer holding Johnson was still on probation and has now been fired. The officer who threw the punches is currently on non-enforcement status pending an administrative hearing.
Not good.
Driving a desk.
Not good. Yeah, we don't know why that's news, Otto.
Yeah, so the only updates I have on this are, it's 50-50, honestly.
Yeah.
The cops involved in the beating were fired, and the one doing the beating ended up with 2 years in jail for the beating and tax evasion. And unfortunately to report, tragically, Duana was murdered in November of that same year, shot execution style, and no one knows how and no one knows why. Could it be related?
Wow, rest in peace, fuck.
Yeah, GLAAD did a whole thing.
Yeah.
It honestly, I don't remember it because I just was not paying attention to these issues in 2008, which is my own blind spot. But yeah, it became a big civil rights talk, especially for trans rights in 2008, which, because I wasn't paying attention, it's hard to imagine there being talks of trans rights in 2008 because it just seemed like such a thing people were glossing over.
Mm-hmm. I was never the kind of person that would, like, laugh at this kind of situation.
I don't know why you would.
And if I had a radio show, I wouldn't bring it up.
I think it's funny that we can't have Lisa Sparxxx in studio potentially giving blowjobs because we're worried that the merger might not go through. But then you're just going to go ahead and have conversations like this and just think, oh, well, we're safe.
Well, I mean, when it comes to mergers and money, you just have to think about the, like, sort of the terms of service, but also the people who are the loudest. Like, you look at, like, the reason why porn plat hubs like Pornhub and stuff are running into issues, and it's because of banks being cautious, but a bigger part is because of people pushing banks to be more conservative and you know, follow these like pseudo respectability politics that have nothing to do with anything.
Yeah. So the last bit here, the last chunk of the show, is all related to around the same topic, and I'm going to introduce you. I'm trying to think if this is the first of their crew of people they just like to make fun of a lot. I don't think we've really covered any of them yet. We're going to spend a bit talking about Patricia Brooks, known to the O&A audience as Stalker Patti, was introduced to the show after meeting O&A around Thanksgiving 1998. Patti was working with local charities and food kitchens, despite being poor herself with no stable living condition. She was nicknamed Stalker Patti when she started showing what they read as an obsession with Opie. For a period, she lived under the stairs at the WNEW office building and at one point lived with Fez. Being an older woman they didn't find attractive, she was of course subject to ridicule and exploitation. Once they learned that Patti was in her 40s and still a virgin, this became the trait they would focus on most. They shaved Patti's head in exchange for U2 tickets, and hooked her up with a wig for until the hair grew back, or so they said. In June of 2002, a day before her birthday, Opie decided that they had no more use for Patti and decided to, quote, cut her loose, saying it was for her own good and for the good of the station. This is a little bit of history lesson here, so we're going to be going back and forth here. So this is June of 2002.
I don't want anyone to hate me. I want you to be friendly to me.
Oh, Rick's grabbing her arm. This is it, Patti. There you go. Time is up.
Is that it, Patti?
Yeah.
Turn around. Don't look back.
Right.
Here it is. The last time you're going to see this station.
Oh, wait, Patti? Slam the door, please.
There.
Good riddance.
There it is.
The end of Stalker Patti.
Oh, we got to be tough. Got to be tough.
Oh, it's the right thing to do.
Of course it is.
They give her 2 minutes to try to speak her piece and try to change their minds, and of course they have already made up their minds, so they're kicking her to the curb. They say they specifically told other shows like Ron and Fez and The Morning Show to not have her in, and said to her anyway that they were going to issue a restraining order. None of this is true. It's just to fuck with this woman.
Yeah.
So once she's outside, Opie decides to turn up the heat.
Tell her that that's not her wig. That's
Patti, by the way.
That's property of the radio station. Please.
The radio station actually owns that wig. They've asked me to take it from you.
I'm going to pause right here, because this is an episode I was consider doing for a minute. A Worst of Opie show.
Oh.
Because we don't talk about him nearly enough. We
Yeah,
focus a lot on Anthony. But I just wanted to think about all the times Opie's been a miserable piece of shit and just compile them all together.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even really think about doing this one now, but it was just... It fit into what we were talking about in the lens of 2008, so I was like, I might as well throw it in here too.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is really bad.
Pull it off her head.
No. Yeah, I need to take it from you.
I can't. I have a job and everything, and I have to see people. It's the only thing I can hide on.
No, they're asking me to take it because it's property of the station.
Pull it off her head, Rick. Pull it off her head.
Please, Pull it off her head. Let me take the wig. Please, I don't want anyone to see me like that.
You already hear Jim in the background going, oh. So Jim is already out. He's already, he can't take it.
I don't want anyone to see me. I have a job and everything. Please, I don't want to see a stain. Please,
Did she wet herself yet?
please.
Rick,
Yeah.
take the wig.
I can't.
Take the wig.
All right, Patty, no, we have to take the wig. So if you can just, if you don't,
I don't know what I look like if I was set without it.
but if you don't hand it to me, I'll be forced to take it off your head.
No. Don't do it, please. I don't want anyone to see me. I gotta go to work like this. I don't have anything to
Take the wig!
Please.
Take the wig! All right, I've reached my limit. Take the wig! I've reached my limit. Get Steve on the phone. He has the balls to take it.
All right, Patty, relax.
I've reached my limit. Okay.
Relax.
Once they lie to her and say, oh, don't worry, you can keep it, you can, whatever, they decide to just grab it off her head, and this is what follows.
Thank you. All right, now turn and walk away.
All right.
Why did you do that?
All right,
Let me walk away.
All right.
Walk.
Oh my God, I can't take this. All right, Rick, you got the wig?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm going now.
All right. Thank you, Rick. Oh my God. I know where my line is now. I know where my limit is. I can't take the crying old virgin woman crying about her hair.
That's awful.
Oh my God, that was horrid.
Guys, it's tough love.
Oh God.
It's tough love.
Opie, you have some issues.
We knew
man.
it wasn't going to be easy.
You got some goddamn issues.
We knew it wasn't going to be easy, guys. We had to do it. You know that.
There's also another part of the conversation where Opie says, it doesn't make me feel good, and Jim just goes, it does make you feel good. So Jim just seems kind of pissed off by the whole thing and doesn't really want to have anything to do with it. Anthony's trying his best to salvage it. So the phone's lit up with listeners outraged over how they treated Patty, and Ron and Fez start their show taking some of the callers who said they wouldn't be listening anymore. Since then, Opie has admitted that they did give Patty the wig back after the show, along with some money.
They profited off of her, exploited her, but they gave her a little bit of money.
They gave her a little bit of money, yeah.
They gave her a wig back.
Yeah.
They emotionally abused her in this, even if it was a bit.
Yeah, she wasn't in on the bit.
Yeah.
Not until after. The show was canceled a few months later because of the Sex for Sam contest, but Patty was on the show again when O&A moved to XM. On May 23rd, 2006, Patty came in studio for Opie's birthday. After some good-natured banter with Patty, a producer comes in with clippers and chases Patty around the studio.
I don't want that! No! No! I don't want that! No!
But we do!
I don't!
It's my birthday gift! It's my wig! You'll look pretty in the
I
wig!
don't want that!
Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday to you! Happy birthday, dear Opie! Happy birthday to you!
And I thought that people who walk up to homeless people and film themselves giving them gifts and then posting it on their own social medias was bad. This is just like, are you kidding me?
I'll do you one better. Another video that Opie was kind of viral for there for a minute was they would do their walkover from the FM studio to the XM studio. And for a while there, they actually had microphones with them and people following them to videotape it. So they would broadcast, like, we're still doing the show. We're talking between buildings. And sometimes they would film it and you'd be able to see it. It was an interesting idea. I don't know if, it was unique. So they would talk to homeless people on the walk over, and one person, they kind of like a recurring person because they saw them every day. They would, say what's up to them. They'd talk to them for a little bit. And one day, they noticed that he had a cake in a box, and Opie decided to stomp the shit out of the cake. And people still bring that up as we haven't forgot that shit, dude. Like, the pleading homeless man on the side of the street asking why you stomped on his cake, because it made you feel good, I guess, and was something you thought was funny.
Even if the homeless man was in on it, what does that say to your viewers?
That's okay, and that's funny.
Yeah.
And to probably do it.
The mistreatment of people who don't have a house is such an indicator of where society is right now. Even still. You know, like, yeah, this is 10 years ago, well, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah, it's
There's still
really rough.
Terrible things happening to the growing number of homeless people.
I know if we actually spent as much time on Opie as we did Anthony, we could delve into this more, but I'm very interested in Opie's personality because he definitely seems like... I mean, in a news story, I heard him say, I was the kid in the class that would, like, eat gum from under the desk to, like, get a rise out of people. And it doesn't seem like he ever really grew up from that. He just seems...
That doesn't hurt anybody else.
That doesn't hurt anybody, but it feels like I'm gonna go out of my way to be shocking guy.
Yeah.
And it feels like, even fans of the show I've seen in comments on videos calling Opie childish. Like we talked about it last time, or the time before that, when he was trying to talk about how he thought about people who had depression and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
His attempts at humor always seem to go a step further because they don't feel like humor. It just feels like he's trying way too hard, and just ultimately comes off sounding really mean.
Yeah, it's sort of like in, like, school, like middle school, high school, when you would have, like, a group of people ragging on somebody, and it would start with, like, oh yeah, look at your messy hair. Would you not take a shower today? Oh, you're so messy. And then somebody else will be like, yeah, like, what did your parents dress you today? Like, you look like shit. Your outfit's terrible. And then suddenly some third person will be like, yeah, hope you die on the way home. Or it's just like, whoa, that escalated quickly.
And even the people who were ragging
like,
initially are
Jesus.
like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That tends to be what Opie does. He'll say something, everyone will react, and then he's sitting there going, what? I thought we're all just having fun here. And I mean, Patty just did a spot on Opie's radio thing, I don't know, whatever his podcast is, a couple years ago. And, Opie's playing it up. It's just like, yeah, we always took care of you though, right? And Patty's like, oh yeah, it's like, we find out as we go that Patty's whole situation is fucked. Patty was also abandoned as a baby, grew up at like a foundling house, and lived with some people who adopted her who may or may not have been abusive. Like Opie, like Anthony, Patty seems to be a product of her environment. Things were never great, so why should things ever be great?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, acceptance. I don't care if it's abusive, it's acceptance.
It's familiar.
Yeah.
It's sort of the best you can hope for because you haven't had anything better.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm still getting maybe a little bit of money out of this.
And pulling yourself out of poverty is extremely difficult.
It's really interesting because I'll hear appearances Patty has on Ron and Fez, and Jesus Christ, it's night and day.
More humane.
They might make fun of how she sounds for a second, but then she's coming in to, like, give them gifts. And then they're like, thank you. That's it. And she leaves.
Yeah.
Nothing happens. It's just all cool.
Yeah, why do you need to exploit her?
I don't know.
Like, why can't
Because
she
the audience loves it. The audience thinks it's hilarious.
But that's because you started doing it. Why did you ever have to start
Why
doing
did you
it?
do it to begin with?
Why can't you have this weird, funny, goofy bit where this woman who's down on her luck comes in and you say hello and you're like, how are you doing? And she's like, I'm doing like this. And you're like, well, hope you have a good day. Here's some money, here's some food, bye. Like, why can't you have, like, a goofy bit where you're just nice?
That's not funny. That's not the feel of the show. The feel of the show is abuse and horribleness.
Why isn't it the feel of the show? Why does the feel of the show have to be cruel?
Because they found that to be profitable from a very early stage.
Why is it profitable?
Because people listening to the radio are terrible. And they enable it.
Were you terrible?
I mean... Probably.
But I mean, you weren't.
I'm not gonna put myself above. Like, I probably laughed at this shit when I was a kid.
Terrible is such a strong word. Like,
well, they're willing to find this shit funny and enable it.
Yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
Why is it funny? You know, like, why do specific people think it's funny?
I don't know. It's just funny to laugh at other people's misfortune, I guess. Why do we laugh when they fall down?
See, that is something I have never liked.
Yeah.
Like, I hate
like America's Funniest
Home Videos. It makes me feel terrible when people fall down.
Ugh.
If I laugh at something that's like someone getting injured, it comes from a place of social awkward feeling.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but I will say if somebody I know gets injured in a way that I know isn't going to permanently hurt them, but they had to look silly doing it. Typically, if it's somebody who's like a bro friend of mine or something, that's funny to me. But if it's like a woman on her wedding day falling over the cake and everything's ruined, that makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
If it's like a baby falling down off of the jungle gym and like wailing, that makes me feel terrible.
Yeah.
But if it's like some guy on his John Deere tractor and like he gets like stuck on a tree limb that's above him and it's just like whoa, and the tractor drives, that's funny to me. But I think maybe it comes down to implied power dynamics there.
How did you react? I never got this part of the story. How did you react when that kid fell off the jungle gym and broke his arm? And
I
ran
was
home?
so confused because
That's not what I was expecting.
So the story, I don't know if we've talked about this story fully on here.
Not on Detox.
He was sort of a bestie of mine.
Oh, okay.
Like, he was a neighbor. We were in the same class, and I like tutored him sometimes.
Oh, I think I might have heard that.
Yeah, and he liked wrestling, and like I liked wrestling in that I was like young and like my brother watched it, and so that's sort of like the background there. And so he was always trying to do wrestling moves and like, you know, the imitatable behavior and always doing wrestling moves on his friends and stuff. And so he was trying to show off. And he was at the monkey bars and he was always showing off how far he could jump from the first monkey bar to the next one. And so he's showing off. He's like, oh, look, I did it. And he gets down, he runs back up and he does it again. And I'm just sitting there just watching, just like, yeah. Whoa, you know, just cheering him on or whatever. And he's like, okay, watch this one. I'm going to jump like 4 bars this time. And this is a short kid. He was like my height. So we were just like short kids. And he jumps, he misses the bar, he lands, he suddenly grabs his arm, starts sobbing and runs home. And I was just like, I was just dumbfounded. I was just like, I was like looking around like he's running. I think I may have called out, like, what's wrong?
Yeah.
And he just kept running and, like, disappeared into his house. And I was just like... And then I didn't see him for a few days.
Oh, no.
And I was just like... Then the next time I saw him, he had a cast. And I was like, oh, you broke your arm?
Oh, man.
I don't think I laughed. I might have. There's a chance. Because it was like that, oh, I'm going to do it. Oh, you failed at doing it. Ha ha ha. I might have laughed then. But I remember being very confused. I hope I laughed.
Right?
Because, like, he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine now.
Well, I mean...
Well, we don't know about now.
Oh, who fucking knows? But no, I was thinking, like... No, he was a kid. He had insurance. He had kid insurance.
Kid insurance.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
In America, kids have insurance, you know, usually, right? What I always hated about America's Home Videos was that they were all taken out of context.
That's true,
and that creeped me out.
Oh.
Because you don't know what led up to the situation, and you don't know how it ended.
Yeah.
Like, I was always so nervous that in, like, this person fell, and then it cuts to a different thing. I'm like, did that person die? Is that person okay? And I still feel that way. Like, if I see, especially on the internet these days, because you don't fucking know. But, yeah, I always had, like, that, ugh. But I also really, really hated American Home Videos because of, like, the gross baby things.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
Like, they never showed, like, adults spitting up and having snot. Why are you going to show me babies doing it?
I hated the baby videos.
Fucking disgusting. The only good thing was, like, the animals only ones. Like there would be like a special of just the animals, and it's just like, oh, but then they'd still have animals like falling and stumbling. And I don't really like seeing animals like, even though like animals are like
resilient.
Cats, they're resilient a lot of times, but I'm still like sitting here like, oh, I hope the cat's okay. You know, I'm just like I flinch. I'm like, ooh.
So we're going to fast forward to where we're at in our journey here, June 18th, 2008. Lisa Sparxxx is back in studio. At the end of yesterday's show, an Opie and Anthony regular, Pat from Moonaki, calls in. Pat competed in Nathan's hot dog eating contest and participated in some of the show's more gross-out eating segments over the past few years. I will not go into specifics.
Yeah, I'm not interested.
Pat has since passed away this past, I think, November? Or October, November. But he was already in pretty rough shape by 2008, having lost a toe to diabetes. Pat has not been with a woman in a really long time, so the boys decide they can do Pat a favor and have Lisa attempt to give him a blowjob. It's pretty uneventful, so they turn their attention to Patty, who is also in studio. She talks about her job at Starbucks, her current living situation, mentioning she doesn't have a refrigerator.
And they're in New York, right?
Yeah.
I think that's oddly common in New York.
Is it?
Either not having a fridge or having a tiny fridge.
Yeah, that's true.
Like there are like New York studio apartments that don't have like a lot of appliances.
Yeah, at this point she's living in a really small place, and she's talking about how like she'll swipe condiment packets from work rather than having a bottle of something because you can't keep it in a fridge, so you just have little tiny things.
Yeah.
So that gets them talking about how like I don't know if she has air conditioning or doesn't have a refrigerator. So they start talking about all these different things, and that brings up this caller.
Matt from Philly writes, shave Patty's head, lose the hair for a Frigidaire. What do you say?
No. No. Tell that guy to erase
All right, lock the door, you
now.
It's time. We need the big ending.
We need a big ending.
Way.
Yeah, lock the door. Here we go.
You're not shaving my head. I'm not going through that again.
Again? Wait, this is the second time? Oh, the first time was for U2 tickets?
It was for the U2 tickets, and they gave her the wig. You know, I guess that's supposed to make it better.
How many years later?
Probably 7.
Okay. So
7
she's,
or
like,
8.
growing her hair back out.
No, we're not doing that. That guy, stop it right now. Just stop it. You're not. I'm not dealing with that again.
Bring
that
in the
was
razor.
very hard.
She's adamant.
Pat, bring in the razor.
Or adamant.
No, do not even do that.
Come
to
in
me.
the other door,
No,
Pat.
don't. I don't want that done to me. I said no. I said no.
No means what?
No means
yes. No means yes.
no. No.
Just walk over there.
I don't want you to. No. No.
Patty.
No. Get a no.
What a maroon.
No.
Patty, don't worry.
No.
They wouldn't do it if you didn't want it done.
No.
So she's crying.
All right, stop.
Patty, leave her alone.
All right, leave her alone.
Patty, come here. It's okay.
Patty, come
no
here.
crying.
We're not gonna
Come
shave
here.
your head.
You're okay.
It's okay. Don't have a
Patty.
heart attack. Oh my God.
Patty, come here.
What is this?
Patty, they were kidding.
Oh my gosh, Patty, don't cry. There's no crying on the radio.
Patty, it's okay. Come back. No one's gonna do anything.
Pat, leave
Someone's
us
gonna cut your precious locks.
Patty, watch. Look, Pat Duffy's leaving the studio with the razor or the whatever, the shaver.
No crying, Patty.
All right, come over here. Pat from Menaki, will you hug her, please?
Do I have to?
No.
Come back to the chair. Come back to the chair.
Patty.
Come back to the chair. Come here.
Stop it.
We were doing it for the reaction. I didn't think we'd get that reaction, but come on over here, Patty.
Stop whining.
Pat, come over here.
Yeah, what are you doing? You're behaving like a boobs. We're not gonna
Come
shave
here
your
by
head.
me, Patty.
Don't be a baby.
Oh my God.
Come sit down. No one's gonna shave your dumb hair.
It's like it brings back.
It's all that room
Patty,
temperature
what are you
food in your
crying
house.
for so much?
Patty, why are you crying?
Yeah, why are you crying? Nobody even touched you.
Yeah, stop being a baby.
Why are you crying?
This is such an abusive situation.
It's awful. It's
Like-
really awful. I'm trying to think if anyone they had any of their like side people. I don't think anyone ever got it as bad as Patty. They never treated any of the men this horribly. So yeah, I wanted to share that.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But yeah, Patty's still with us. She's on Twitter. You can see all the charity she's been doing. She just seems like a genuinely nice person who just Very selfless, does a lot for other people.
And it's almost as if when you experience hardship, you naturally learn more about compassion?
Yeah. You'd think Anthony would.
Well, that's a different kind of hardship, isn't it?
True. Well, having been abused, you think he might have some compassion for people who are abused, or might, I guess not. Even though he's not the one to instigate it, it's usually Opie.
I think the difference is that he at some point thought that it was okay.
Yeah.
He said he refers to it as abuse as like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. He never, I wish we could actually get an honest take from Anthony about how he felt about his childhood, but seemingly whenever he talks about it, it does really seem like he doesn't really see, oh yeah, I got the shit beat out of me, but it's a lot of people who just look back at it in hindsight and be like, oh, that was just how growing up was.
Exactly.
Or like, oh, I'm better for it, or whatever.
Yeah, as opposed to people who are extremely poor, and they are told about, they're told about and believe and internalize the bootstrap mentality, will believe that their poverty was their own fault and they deserved it.
Right.
And they have to do all this hard work that they consider super hard work to get out of it. Whether or not it's hard work or not is sort of beside the point. But they have this belief that they deserved it because they weren't working hard enough.
Right.
And so I think that when you have the belief that you deserve your hardships, that's where your compassion can die. But if you have a situation like with Patty where she was, just epitome of downtrodden and just no benefits in life and stuff.
No real support system.
No support system. There's no one there to tell her, well, you deserve this. That gives that she would give a shit about their opinion. This is just my speculation.
Yeah.
But she isn't internalizing that it's her fault. I think she knows that she deserves better, and she has to do anything she can to get better. Yeah, she doesn't think she deserves a shitty life. And therefore, the compassion grows because she's thinking, I don't deserve a shitty life. These other people don't deserve shitty lives. And, you go back to people who have this bootstrap mentality thinking that, I must have deserved it. They look at the other people who are in similar situations and they think they deserve it. If you feel like you deserve shitty shit, whether it be abuse or poverty, of course you're going to think other people in similar situations deserve it too.
Yeah.
You're not just going to think only you deserve it, most likely,
I'm just very relieved, as someone who grew up hearing a lot about Patty. I mean, from the late 90s, I was aware of her, so to see her just being okay seeming like, and I mean, without a show to rely on.
Yeah.
There's no real Ron and Fez to be a part of anymore. Besides that one off appearance on Opie's thing, I don't think she has anything to do with Anthony's thing.
Mm-hmm.
She's not gravitating towards that. She just posts on Twitter, about her cat, about races she does and stuff like that. And it's just nice to see that she was able to move on past it.
Yeah.
Because I do wonder, and this isn't victim blaming, but I wonder how she got roped into the show in the first place. Because she says I was listening and I was a fan or whatever. It's hard to picture her as a fan of the show. And I wonder, what she'd heard. What not terrible bit she might have heard that she thought, oh, this is funny.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it doesn't seem like a show she would want anything to do with, personally.
Well, I wonder how many shows were on the air at the time to choose from.
Well, yeah, I mean, she said she heard about them 2 months in. And met them around Thanksgiving when she was doing Thanksgiving charity work and stuff like that. She was cooking and doing stuff, and I guess it might have been in the NEW building or near it. But yeah, so she heard of the show when they were still really new in New York.
Yeah.
And at that time, they really hadn't turned up the awful yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there is a chance that, maybe you just find it as harmless fun.
And I think that sort of begs the question, did anybody start listening to O&A?
Yeah.
I mean, why do you think you did?
I know for me, it was Anthony would do funny impressions. I liked that. They would do some songs every so often that I thought were kind of funny. Frog in the pot type thing of, if they turned it up slow enough, you really don't notice how fucking terrible it is.
Yeah.
Until it's too late.
You don't realize until you're in the shit that, whoa, they're fucking racist, sexist, transphobic, homophobic. There are all these terrible things that maybe don't align with my values. And then you can draw a parallel between that and how white supremacy, how fascism, how all of these things come to rise with a slow increase, bit by bit.
What we talk about on this show is, I'm going to stick with this fraction, 1/50th of what their show normally is.
Right.
And that's how they slowly turn it up. The argument people make about Alex Jones being, he's so funny. I honestly, at this point, having listened to enough Knowledge Fight, I don't get how people can make that analogy anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could realistically think this guy is actually funny enough to ignore how terrible he is.
Yeah.
It seems like that makes up a good bit of it.
It's not what it's about. It's about all this other stuff. Sure, they say these things, and so it is sort of like serving like a Trojan horse in kind of way. In a way.
You're implying there's a context when the context is the horse.
Yeah.
It's the spoonful of sugar with the really insidious thing, like you said, tucked away in there. So they just kind of assume, well, if you're here for the other stuff, you're naturally going to be okay with this. And if you're not okay with that, there's way more of the stuff that isn't shitty that you're willing to overlook the stuff that is.
Yeah, and it's like making a new friend, right?
Yeah.
And you make a new friend, and you're like, you're funny, you're great, we get along so well. Like, wow, I didn't realize this. We're like besties. We're best friends now. Oh, what'd you just say?
Yeah.
I'm willing to look past that because of all the other good stuff that you've said and done. And actually, the thing I was thinking of, Alex Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, some people think he's funny.
Yep.
Donald Trump.
Yes.
People thought it's just a bit. It's just a bit. You don't believe the things he says. It's just it's just like sarcasm. It's just funny. It's just a bit. It's gone from this person who proclaims that they are a comedian doing a comedy bit that they say is a bit.
Right.
That is insidious in some way.
Mm-hmm.
They're punching down on a marginalized community.
Yes.
All the way from people taking that and running with it and and plastering that on people who don't say they're comedians, who don't say it's a bit, like Donald Trump or Alex Jones.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, it's just funny. Like, it's just so funny. And it's like, okay, how the fuck do you define funny then? Has funny become so degraded as something that anything you laugh at? Because funny, when I laugh, it's not always because something is funny.
Right.
Sometimes I'll laugh out of nervousness.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I'll laugh out of, like, fear.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll laugh because something's funny. Sometimes I'll laugh because something's random.
Right,
and surprising. So, like, have we just taken the concept of funny and just turned it into something else? Why is it funny for some people to listen to other people just talk about someone they hate?
Right.
Like Alex Jones talking about, the New World Order or something.
Well, that itself isn't supposed to be funny.
Well, no. But when he gets to the point where he's like, he's doing this, they're doing this. And guess what? They're doing this too. And they're doing this too. And I guess the laughing, the funny comes from him pushing to the point.
It's so absurd.
It's so absurd. Ha ha ha. Oh, he's so... But he's right.
Yeah, you start listening.
You start listening and you're like, what physiologically happens when you laugh? And is it always the same no matter what you're laughing at?
This is why I don't think that comedy itself can be the Trojan horse, because the shit's never funny. But it goes back to what Owen Benjamin was saying, how he was complaining about how you look at these late night talk shows or these leftist comedians, the audience isn't laughing, they're applauding. Is it any different when you look at conservative comedians?
Right.
Like, what are they laughing at? They're just applauding at shit they agree at, too. I don't find a lot of, like, liberal comedians funny, because, yeah, it's not funny. It's really just, I'm saying something, you know, that people agree with, and they get a reaction.
Yeah, it's milquetoast.
Yeah, like, yeah, I don't find that funny.
Yeah.
But to act like that's all leftist comedy, it's like, well, no.
Yeah.
But a good bit, not to say there aren't exceptions, but a lot of conservative comedians, at least the prominent ones that we actually hear about, yeah, it's just like borderline hate speech.
Yeah.
And people are laughing because it's like, oh, I can't believe you said that.
I can't believe you said that, but you can. Tee-hee-hee.
Tee-hee-hee, and I agree with it. It's so funny. Like, the whole so-and-so saying what everyone else is afraid to say, or, you know, the whole someone's gotta say it, that's all just people laughing because they're finally hearing the hate speech that they think. We're gonna wrap this episode up, and
with a joke.
Well, I guess you could say this is a joke. Anthony got his @AnthonyCumia Twitter account back.
No.
The one that his old verified page. Problem is, because it was created in an old phone number that he doesn't have anymore, he can't log into it. So if you want to look back at all his old tweets and old likes, and just kind of scroll through those and see if there's any problematic shit, because there probably is.
He can't do anything about it.
Can't do anything about it. You can't delete any of your tweets. You can't unlike anything you liked.
And this isn't a call for harassment.
No.
This is a call to make sure all of his tweets are up to Twitter's terms of service.
Because, you know, the terms of service have kind of changed since then.
Yeah,
you don't know.
We have to play the part of civil servant.
Yep. Could there be some tweets on there that might be worth reporting? Quite possibly.
Maybe screenshot them so that, you know, if they disappear, we always have the receipts.
Exactly. That's all I'm saying.
That's all we're saying.
So he currently, on his other account that he is currently using, trying to get Twitter's support to help fix his situation so he can log into his old account.
Shouldn't you be able to... Don't you need to show some form of ID to show that you are the person that has the name and the handle?
Yeah.
Can't you just show your fucking ID again?
It should be that easy, but luckily...
But it's Twitter.
And it's him, so I don't want it to be that easy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want him to get it back. You already have 2 pages you were using up until a couple, like, days ago, so... I don't give a fuck about your verified account. You already have 2. You can use Twitter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You have 30,000 people following you right now. Like, oh, but I have 100,000 people following the other one.
Well, fucking pull yourself by your bootstraps and fucking get those 100K.
Yeah,
work harder.
Why aren't they still following you?
Oh, I wonder why. You think that suddenly you're gonna fucking... I imagine if you were to start suddenly being active on the 100K one, they'd be like, wait, I'm still following this page? Unfollow.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, what the fuck is this? It's gonna be a cruel reminder to a lot of people. Oh boy.
She went, and put my finger right where her tongue curled up, and she's like,
But that's it for this week's episode of O&A Detox. And until next time,
I'm Neb.
And I'm Muse. And we're gonna leave you with whatever this is.
I got a bunch of favorite songs out there, but I got to go with Duffy, Mercy. I got to go with Duffy. It's the catchiest song out there right
Duffy?
now.
I know. I've seen the Starbucks CD.
Have you heard Mercy?
No.
This will be on your iPod by the end of the day. You really haven't heard Mercy?
No.
Sounds like Aretha Franklin, right?
Yeah, something.